Damage is still the most important role in Season 9. The latest hotfix didn't do anything to change that, but now that everyone's grinding for their peak or even champion for the Grandmaster players, it's a big priority to abuse the strongest heroes. It's basically a team deathmatch meta, even with some of the projectile sizes reduced. If you're looking to rank up on your favorite heroes, check out the link in the description below to get access to a GameLeap membership. There are tons of guides and courses that can level up your game and help you get better, faster. Make sure to check it out and enjoy the video. So let's get started, not in F tier, but in D tier, where the worst hero right now is Torbjorn. He's got 300 health and 50 of it is armor, so on paper he seems fine. He just has the most awful hitbox in the game. Everybody deals maximum damage to him all the time, and headshots come automatically with his head placed at the front of his body like he's a hunchback. Before the patch dropped, he was expected to be strong with his turret constantly applying the DPS passive, but now that we've played the game for a while, it's not like the other heroes are struggling to use it. The better heroes are actually the ones who deal burst damage with the passive, not just tagging heroes with a 44 DPS turret. He doesn't really feel like the worst hero, but he definitely has the least potential this season. Playing slow and fast both work right now, but Torb can only play slow and he loses the better spam heroes. He's pretty out of place. Next up in C tier is Reaper. Without high mobility or tank level mitigation abilities, the bigger heroes are a lot more killable, so Reaper has to play fast, going in to either force a duel in the backline or rushing the enemy tank. If you play too slow and take too long, that's all your health gone and your Wraith form forced before the fight even starts. But focusing backline needs setup, and the only setup Reaper has is Shadow Step, the most telegraphed and slowest mobility in the game. So what about rushing the tank? Well, first you need a tank that can't outrange Reaper. If the one hero you're trying to focus just stays away from you while still doing their job as a tank, you're gonna be useless. That already eliminates more than half the tank roster. If you can only be a decent hero into Reinhardt and Winston, you have a long way to go. Moving on to Bastion, also big hitbox, also big health pool. You can probably see the pattern in these lower tiers so far. His turret form is great, but against him, if you're not forcing it out easily, you're doing something wrong. Even in Grandmaster, Bastion just can't hold on to the ability. And in contrast to Season 6 where he was dominating, his recon form isn't good enough anymore. His big hitbox really betrays him in the range duel. He's easier to hit than Jungle Queen, so clearly 350 health isn't enough. Still, the crazy thing about this season is that even the third worst DPS has super strong abilities. Bastion's turret form is easily forced out, but for 6 seconds he's pretty unstoppable. And the lower rank you're playing in, the less patient players are. And speaking of the worst DPS with super strong abilities, Symmetra is the ultimate example. She used to be decent. Her primary and secondary fire covered close and long range easily, but not anymore. With everyone health boosted, not only does she deal less relative damage, but everyone is a lot better at fighting her back, especially early on in the fight. Her level 1 beam is a measly 60 DPS. Even Moira is better than that. Clearly she needs to be at level 3 to deal meaningful damage, and 180 is nothing to sneeze at, but it's limited to 12 meters. If you need 3 seconds of sustained damage to deal more damage than Wrecking Ball, it might not be going so good. You can't ignore her teleporter and ultimate though, but although her ultimate is a solid instant advantage, you need to have at least a 2-step plan with your teleporter plays, and in ranked, that's just not gonna happen. Finally, at the top of C tier we've got Junkrat. Even with concussion mine buffs, he's not moving up any tiers. Just like Bastion's grenade, the knockup effect is actually really good. It's just not enough to offset how bad the rest of his kit is. The only other thing he's got going for him is that he does deal a lot of damage, but again, that's really only good on paper. The truth is that without a one-shot, all of his damage is too slow. His grenades can fly really far, but once you're shooting past 15 meters, even the buffed grenade size misses too much. The slow speed gives your opponents time to react, so Junkrat needs to get close to look for a pick if he doesn't want to just spam tanks. But without that one-shot, the playstyle doesn't work. He's good as a rush counter, but right now most rush comps have better range than Junkrat. He's not even always that effective. Now we're at least onto B tier, but we've still got a lot of inconsistent heroes to go through, but they're at least more capable of carrying and winning fights on their own. Starting with the reworked Farah. Although she's particularly bad into a lot of strong heroes right now, she's become a total burst damage machine. The only hurdle you need to pass is engaging the enemy team without them killing you on the way. And depending on the enemy team's heroes, this can be close to impossible, but on some maps you'll have the cover necessary to rotate onto your targets consistently. 250 health also gives you a healthy engage of pushing close for 2 or 3 rockets and then blasting off again until your cooldowns are back. On the spectrum of how swift and nimble a flanker is, Farah is obviously closer to Junkrat than she is to Tracer, but she does move really fast in the air. It won't stop her from being full tracked, but it makes it easier to disengage when you start getting focused. Next in B tier is Widowmaker. Fitting that she and Farah have a pretty even matchup now. Widow has the hit scan and one-shot advantage, but she's also only at 200 health. If the Farah does get on you, it's over unless you hit an instant headshot, but getting to you is the tough part. Widowmaker works best when you're undetected anyway, and on maps where dive tanks aren't normally played, she can be pretty free. And even so, basically every escort map is great for Widowmaker, now that she's got a better fall-off range. They all have really long sightlines, and playing around the payload position is easy. Just, she still only has 200 health. If you're not hitting your first shots, you can easily find yourself on the run for the rest of the fight, or just instantly dead as you get jumped by dive heroes. It's actually pretty funny that the one hero that can still one-shot consistently also gets one-shotted consistently. Anyway, moving on to Mei, the polar opposite of Widow's playstyle. Just unlike Reaper, she actually has the abilities to force a close-range fight. Ice Wall counters half the tank roster, uncoordinated players, and overextended players. It's really versatile, but it also depends massively on the map. Mei has a lot of strong abilities, even though she takes a while to set up, but she can't do much if the enemy just has too much range. It's not like she gets countered every game, but the higher up you go, the harder it gets. Even with good teamwork, it's much easier to kite and shoot a mid comp than it is for the main comp to catch anybody. Now at the end of B tier, we've got Sombra. She's basically guaranteed to kill in Zenyatta now no matter what, and Lucio is especially vulnerable to heck. She's got a great matchup into the better supports this season, and Zenyatta's nerfs make it easier. Offensively, she actually has all she needs to be successful. Her SMG deals 160 DPS, her EMP actually silences you for a good while, and Virus is a perfect extra 1v1 tool, kind of like how micro missiles work for D.Va. Defensively, she's really easy to chase and force out though. It's not like spy checking is that difficult, people just don't want to do it. But if you get caught before you're engaged, it's really bad. Before, you would just reset and try again, but now you have to fight for your life, and then reset and try again. Yeah, invisibility is really good, but Sombra's slow escape essentially makes her a glass cannon diver. If she can't get a kill or a crazy disruptive hack, it's really easy to chase her, or just turn on her team after she has to translocate away. Sometimes that's way easier. Now finally onto A tier where all the long-range hit scan heroes are packed in. But first up, it's actually Genji. Although he can't burst as hard as Sombra can, he's just a way safer and more consistent option. He can fight for longer, and although he needs to be within dash range to commit to the kill, his own shuriken spam is strong enough to set himself up. Dragon Blade has also gotten super reliable in Season 9. The faster slash rate opens up a lot of new targets and keeps the ultimate dangerous for the entire duration. The only thing to worry about is getting forced out before the fight. Genji's fast and has his cyber agility passive, but he's still very easy to shoot, and without deflect he's a lot less scarier. Now for Ekko, the other diver in A tier. She's just way better suited and with less weaknesses. She also has full air supremacy. Against Farah she's even better than before, and her damage output is nothing short of impressive. Focusing beam alone makes her super valuable in Season 9. Wherever she can be played without getting blasted out of the sky, she's a menace. Although blasting her out of the sky is much more likely to happen now, but it's at least manageable. Ekko's instant flight boost is fast enough to disengage safely, and her effective damage range is pretty far. Within 20 meters you can evaporate someone at any time, so even while you're being chased out, there's always an opportunity to hit back. Okay, finally we're getting started on the real champions of the champion season. Cassidy's up, and now that Soldier, Hanzo, and Widowmaker got projectile size nerfs, he's already better by comparison. He's one of the strongest duelists, and he does have 275 health. He kinda needs it with how big he is compared to other ranged hit scans, but it also makes his damage reduction effect a lot better. He can tank 550 damage during his roll and a little over 450 during high noon. Pulse bomb just isn't a problem. It's pretty hard to kill him reliably by diving him. He even has his hindering grenade to specifically punish flankers. And if you have enough skill, you can still 2-tap players within 25 meters. You just need 2 headshots, which is obviously harder on some heroes than others. Although Cass is a very reliable defensive hit scan, he does get outranged, and that means that on a lot of maps, you can't get away with just dueling the other spammers back. You'll have to actually rotate properly with your team. Even defensively, some high grounds don't even work for him. Most escort maps make it really easy to outrange him, but obviously you need one of the heroes higher up in the tier list to do so. He's at the very least a really good anti-flank carry. Now for Hanzo. Even though his arrows only got slightly nerfed, they're still big enough that it's much easier to confirm shots. And while he can't one-shot, his damage is so consistent that it makes him really hard to take space against, and his storm arrow burst damage is also readily available. The only real downside that Hanzo has is how easy he is to kill, but it's not like you need to be doing combat archery in the enemy backline. Sitting too safe isn't good either, but Hanzo can easily push up for better angles when he needs to. Especially his leap helps him play extra aggressive while still having an escape. I know a lot of people are bummed that he can't one-shot. A lot of Hanzo players used to play him just for the headshot snipe. Now damage output is a lot more valuable. If you keep hitting arrows, you will keep slowing the enemy down, even if you don't get picks. But it's not like he can't get picks anymore. Storm arrows are there for you when you've got someone in your crosshairs that you know can't escape the burst. Next is Sojourn, and while she's not exactly way better than Hanzo, she can play further up and commits harder with her team. Hanzo has more consistent pressure but less frontline presence. Sojourn doesn't have as many logs as Hanzo does, but her rail shots are easier to engage with. It's a season of slow play, but you have to close the fights and get picks aggressively. Exactly what Sojourn is good at. Building railgun shots is also easier than ever before, so if you want to play full damage output suppressing fire style, you totally can. She's still extremely flexible, but not the most obvious choice for every situation. At the second spot in A tier, it's Soldier. He's definitely most affected by the bullet size changes, and I know a lot of players already feel it. But as a top 3 DPS, he's clearly still really good. Just the potential of hitting 171 DPS makes him powerful, and just like Sojourn and Hanzo, he's got his own 100 plus damage burst shot, his Helix rockets. There's almost no reason to play 2 flankers in ranked when one of your high damage output spammers can also finish kills easily. But for the top of A tier, we've got the high damage output spammer who can open up the fight easily, Ashe. She's also got her .08 meter sized bullets like Cass does, and her dynamite speaks for itself. Because you can detonate it over shields and cover, it's really easy to fully stop the enemy team from setting up. You just need your team to lay on the pressure when you go for it. In Season 9, it's become a really important ability to track. If you run into the point and get hit by a 5-man dynamite, you're just done. Even single split targets get easily forced out. And Ashe isn't just a dynamite bot. Her burst damage is crazy and her hipfire spam is way more accurate. Although Bob can get melted pretty quickly, as long as he hits somebody with his charge, you're already well off to winning the fight. She even makes up for not having that 100 plus damage burst shot by having more consistent ranged burst than the others. She's one of the easiest to hit headshots with in the new patch, with the highest hit scan bullet size and her scope. Now we finally have just one hero left. It's Tracer alone in S tier. Even with her fall off range nerfed, starting at 10 instead of 12 meters, she can still consistently one-clip everyone in the game, except for tanks of course. As long as she has 6 damage bullets in Season 9, any experienced Tracer player is already way ahead of any other hero. It's still Tracer after all, so you need to have good blink management, strafing, pre-fight positioning, and mechanics. She doesn't have easy value like the heroes on A tier, but it's high value, probably just the highest. The only thing that counters Tracer in a state like this is anti-flank, and outside of Cass who can be baited easily by Tracer, there aren't enough heroes that can one-shot her. Icicles, Kunais, even 3 Winston secondary fire shots won't take her down, although that last one is just a bit too slow. But just 25 health makes her defensively top tier too. Just don't go tanking the shots you can easily dodge. That's it for the updated DPS tier list for Season 9. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.